How's it going, everyone? Jason from Ronin Bodyboards. Looks like we're doing another Boog Chat tonight. It's just about 6 o'clock, so getting things started here. Looks like we got one person here already. Maybe a few more will show up soon. Big day. Been waiting a couple months for some new materials, and they all landed today, so I'm pretty excited day. Exciting day. Couple new blue colors, restock on black and white bottom slicks, and some substrate that I use, and some other things that get into some of that in a little bit here. Maybe I'll pull out some colors to show, but like I said, all those colors are posted on Facebook and Instagram now, so if you want to look at the colors, the couple new blue colors, they're all up to look at. Something else that came in last week. I know last week I talked about having some transfer stickers, like the triangle logos like this, black and white. These are up on the website now, and I got a few more of these. I only had a limited run of them the first time around, like about a week or so ago, and since then I've gotten more. So there's triangle logos like that, and also we got some. I got some of the helmet stickers too. So. Say Ronin custom bodyboards, kind of like the t-shirts that I had a while back. Going to get more of those from my buddy Jim Ledbetter here real soon. We're going to get some more of these shirts done. Hopefully by Christmas I'll get restocked on a bunch more shirts there. Also got the 5 Rings logo stickers too, so anybody wants these. Are the kind of ones you put on a window. You peel the back off and then you stick it on a window, and then you peel the top off, so it's kind of like a transfer sticker versus something that's a clear kind of stick-on bumper sticker like I typically have. Anyway, these things are pretty cool. Anyway, they're all up on the website and in the website store if anybody's curious and wants to take a look at those. So yeah, pretty excited to have all the transfer stickers all up on the website now. So enough of that. They're a little bit smaller, like the helmet logo and the 5 Rings. They're a little bit smaller than the stamps. So if you have a board with that stamp on it, stamps like this big, and then the triangle sticker is just a little bit smaller. I guess it's that way. And then the triangle one this is the little triangle stamp, so you can kind of see it's kind of in between the little stamp and then the big triangle stamp. It's kind of in between that size than these transfer stickers. The triangle, and then like I said, the helmets, if you have a helmet stamp on your board, this is kind of the size difference of it. So it's not quite as big as what the stamp is for the boards. Hey, Nick. What shirt? This shirt? This is one of the color fade 5 Ring ones. There were just a couple of them. Yeah, just a guy just had a couple of these special run that Jim did for me. Definitely going to get more of the 5 Rings ones too. So I'm going to get more helmet and 5 Rings stamps. Yeah, and I'll probably have him do more of these color fades. They came out pretty sick. It's the first time he was kind of giving it a go. So yeah, this is pretty cool. I like them. There were a couple up on the website, but they're pretty much all gone now. But if not, I'll be getting more soon. But hopefully I'll get a bunch more shirts before Christmas. The long sleeve ones are up. Maybe I'll throw on the long sleeve from the next Friday's chat, so that way everybody can kind of see what the long sleeves look like. They're pretty cool. I pulled one out for myself, so they're pretty cool. Yeah, it looks like I've got 4 people here. Like I said, this is a chat, and it's a kind of an open chat. So if anybody's got any boogie related questions, man, toss them in over on where it says say something. So throw it in there, and I'm more than willing to answer questions if anybody's got any. And like I said, I have a few topics I maybe want to go at today, just to kind of create some content and some different things we can chat about. Yeah, it's 6 o'clock. Let's see, I got stickers, new colors, got a box of stringers. You can kind of see there's the stringers sitting right back up in the corner over here that I use, the standard stringers. So I got some 3/4 inch ones, and I got some 1/2 inch ones because I've just used up the 1/2 inch ones for the Beeline Girls board, which is all the boards I kind of was showing last week are all, you can kind of see some of them here, right down here. They're getting close. They're all bumpered out and all the deck work's done, so they're just ready for deck skin laminations, and then I'll be off to the next three boards are already on order after these 5. So yeah, getting busy. I can feel the fall push for boards, and I got a couple other people I'm already talking to about boards too. So and then I'm sure people are going to be all about these new colors. So I'm going to probably get a few orders just from the new blues that I got. So pretty excited about everything that's going on, and I'm going to be busy over the next few months. I can already feel it. I'm really excited about what's going to happen over the next couple months and the cool color combinations we're going to come up with. All the customers are going to come up with for the new boards, these new colors. So yeah, I mean, like I said, if anybody's got any questions, hit me up, man. Looks like we've got 5 people here. There's I'm an open book, man. I just want to talk about boogie stuff, and if anybody has any questions, I mean, I get asked a lot of questions just randomly through Instagram and Facebook, and some of those kind of questions, since I'm answering it just for one person, I might pull some of those questions over to the live feed chats too. So, that's kind of a couple of them I'm going to go over tonight. Nick, Nick's asking about the bumper material. So, the bumper material I use is an expanded polypropylene, and it's a black. Like you said, it's black. All the bumpers are black. So what it is it's an expanded polypropylene. It's not like a beaded polypropylene. So let me see. I can pull a. I mean, you can kind of see it. That's all what the bumper stuff is here. That's all on the back of this board. So yeah, what this is it's a higher density than the skins, so it gives better cushion for impact damage and stuff. So what it also does is it solves some of the dissimilar material problems, because if you look at the cross section this way of the side of the board, what you do is you got a layer of surlyn, you got a layer of polyethylene, then you got a layer of polypropylene, then you got the mesh, then you got the polypropylene core. So we got is 1, 2, 3, 4. There's like 5 different materials, and I don't even have the deck skins or anything on yet. So you can imagine that when you go to put a rail piece on, or you're wrapping the skins over the nose and tail, you got to solve, you got to have one piece of thing that sticks to all this. And so by pre-bumpering the tail portions and the nose portions, you can so now what you get is you get polypropylene all the way around and where it wraps over. So you're solving the dissimilar material problem right from the get-go. So you're not having to fight like all the other little stacked materials that happens down in the bottom part of this board, and having one material stick to all that with just heat is kind of tough. So that's what the black bumpers do. And I buy this stuff in big rolls. So what happens is, you also know, like the skins that go on boards are all polyethylene. So what I do is I pre-back those skins with this same material. So what you'll see is a polyethylene skin with a polypropylene backing. So that way, when you go to laminate the skin onto the core, it's polypropylene to polypropylene. And when you wrap it over the nose and tail, it's always polypropylene to polypropylene. You're not dealing with a bunch of different materials trying to stick them all together. So that's kind of the theory behind all the bumper work and what it is. So, and there is some adhesives that go on this stuff too as well. That's part of what seals off this part right through here is that it has an adhesive that sticks on there. It's like a hot melt adhesive type stuff. And the black skins that I get are pre-coated one side with that adhesive. So one side's bare polypropylene, the other side has an adhesive. So it's a weird combination stack of materials. I don't think a lot of people realize what goes into all the modern day bodyboard sandwich, like what I call it is. There's a stack of materials that most people just don't get. Most people think it's just a core, a piece of surlyn, and a piece of skin, but there isn't. There's a lot more that goes into it, into the modern sandwich. Hey, Jonathan. Yeah, you can hit me up through the Instagram or Facebook, or you can send me an email to runninbodyboards@gmail.com, and we can work out the details for board orders. I just do it all through kind of direct messages and emails and stuff. So that's good enough for me. I used to have a form on the website that would take orders, but that led to a few problems, and people maybe placing orders for things before I get a chance to talk to them about details and stuff. So I've ran into some problems maybe early on with just having a form on the website that let people just put in whatever they wanted, and then I just had to build whatever they were put in. So over time, I learned it's probably better that I talk to my customers and work out the details with them person to person than just letting them order whatever. But I try to be on it when people message me and stuff. So it's just a matter of, how many boards I got going on, and I'm juggling all this stuff because I'm just a one-man show. So most people out there, brands or manufacturers, have a team of people that put stuff together and make a board order happen. So for me, it's just all me. I do everything myself. So that's how you get it. Just hit me up through email or Instagram or Facebook, direct message. That we can work out your board order. What type of material are my stringers? They're well, I can get carbon fiber, but most of mine are epoxy fiberglass. I went over maybe one of the other. I think it was maybe the very first one. I did some pulled out some different stringers and stuff and showed what they are. But yeah, they're epoxy fiberglass. Or 3/4 inch is my standard, but I can put 1/2 inch hollow, and I can also do solid rod as well. So I can get solid rods or hollow tubes for stringers. So it really does. Yeah, like I said, they went over some of this stuff in one of the previous chats. Maybe you should go back through and check out some of those because there's a lot of cool content in some of the ones I've already done. So any free time, you can go back and watch all the ones I've already done. So I'd say go back and look at that. Yeah. Yeah, Joe. It just my workload, whatever I got going on, but I mean, usually you can usually get your board done in 2 weeks, depending on stuff right now. Yeah, I usually have a batch of boards I'm working on, and I'm always taking orders for the next round. That's kind of where I'm at right now. So I got 5 I'm working on now. I got 3 more in the queue after this, and I don't really like to do more than like 5 to 6, 7 boards in a batch, just because they're all so unique and custom that all the details for all the boards get a little overwhelming because they're all different. So I like to kind of keep the batch numbers a little lower, and that way I can kick them out faster too. Even if if I can 5 boards can take me sometimes like I just had, if you were watching last week's, all the cores I had stacked up back here, that's these boards now, and I still haven't kind of got them done. But I'd say probably by the end of early next week, all these ones will be done, and I'll probably get on to the next ones. So yeah, about 2 weeks is about what time right now, about how long it takes me to get a custom done. Yeah, thanks for the questions. And yeah, anybody else out there that has a question, toss it in. We can go over whatever. Like I said, I have a few things that maybe I wanted to talk about tonight, but I'd rather answer questions than go over the topics I have. So, yeah, been surfing my brains out. There's, I don't know how many days sessions I had this week. I had quite a few. I think I got a total of like 19 sessions for this month, which is pretty good for the last few months. That's the most I've had in a few months, just because the surf hasn't been that good. This month, there's actually been a pretty good run of swell, so I've actually been getting in the water a lot. Yep. I am in the water a lot. So, I have some theories about swimming around out in the water. I think that there's some people out there that, I learned to bodyboard at the little beach break that's out in front of my house. And, there's not very many bodyboarders out there. I watch a lot of surfers. I've learned more about watching surfers than bodyboarders. There just aren't that many bodyboarders in the water around where I live. It's crazy. So, I mean, I've learned a lot just by watching the other surfer, the better surfers in my neighborhood and stuff. So, and a lot of those, it's interesting to watch, people paddle. And when I do see a bodyboarder, sometimes I start watching them like a hawk, just because like I don't get a chance to watch other bodyboarders ride, or how they paddle, or what they do in the water, or their different techniques. It's all stuff that I've just learned myself by doing when I'm in the water. I've learned a lot by going to Hawaii and maybe being around some other guys that are really good too. So, but I think I see a lot of people that never paddle with their. I want to get into something like arm paddling versus kicking. A lot of bodyboarders I see out in the water, they never paddle with their arms ever, which kind of blows me away, because I probably personally, because like my beach break, it's not a shore break at all. It really is a wave you got to paddle out to. So on the bigger days, you could probably at least paddle 100 yards out to sea to get to the outside where the waves are breaking. So, it's basically like paddling out a football field through whitewater with no channel. It's just, you gotta just muscle your way through. And for me, I found over time that, when I'm paddling, I'll get to those questions over there, guys. I see your questions over here, so I'll get to them in just a second after I'm done with this little topic. So I find that paddling with my arms to make the distance to paddle out a heck of a lot easier and more efficient. Well, I find that when I'm kicking a lot, when push comes to shove, you're paddling with all four, and you're scratching for the horizon not to get blown up by the set. But if I'm really just trying to make distance, I paddle like probably 90% with my arms, and I just feel it's more efficient that way, because I feel when I'm kicking, I get a lot of drag just from the kicking motion. I find that there's a lot of drag that happens from that. So I feel that I'm 6'4". Also, I'm pretty tall guy, so if I just keep my feet stretched out behind the board and I just get good, clean strokes with my arms, I find that I make as I can paddle pretty quickly. In fact, probably even more efficiently than I've just kicked. So I just find once you get up to speed and you're gliding with your arms, and if you can take nice, long, clean strokes with your arms, I feel that that's a more efficient way to paddle. And I have some theories also about it, that is that you're using smaller muscle groups to do that. So you're not gonna burn out or gas out as fast as using your legs, because your legs use bigger muscles. So you're going to use more oxygen kicking than you're going to use by paddling with your arms. So all in all, I just think that if you're trying to make distance, paddling with your arms is a way more efficient way than just kicking. And then another thing about kicking is, like, I see a lot of people, and a lot of times it's novices, maybe don't know how to kick properly, is that they splash on the surface a lot. There's just like this big kick splash when they kick. And I find that when and this maybe comes from, because I'm also a certified scuba diver and I've done a lot of diving under the water, that you can need to get your fins under the surface of the water. I think that's a thing that a lot of people do, is they keep their fins on the top, the surface of the water, and they splash and kick there, instead of trying to keep your fins under the water and really focus on your downward kick instead of the upward kick. So if you can keep your fins under the water and you focus on your downward kick through your motions, you're gonna find you're gonna get a lot more propel and a lot more propulsion by keeping your fins under the water. Don't splash, and just kick under the water and focus on your downward motion kick. And don't really worry too much about your upward motion. Just kick down hard, and then that's what you want to do. Keep your fins under the water and kick down. Don't kick on the surface. You look like an absolute kook. That's why when I see people, I'm like, man, that guy doesn't know what he's doing. And not to mention, you make everybody else look bad. All the other surfers look at you, and we get discriminated enough. We don't need to give people reasons to be discriminated on us more. So try to keep your fins under the water. That's one of my biggest pet peeves with some of the bodyboarders, that they just splash like crazy on the surface with their fins. Don't do that. Okay, I'll quit venting about that. But that's what I'm thinking. It's like, and also maybe some arm paddling techniques. I've watched some YouTube videos about some guys that talk about how to distance paddle and stuff. And there's some really cool techniques about, you're obviously you're stroking through with one arm, but what you do with that other arm, make sure that other arm is extended out as far as you can reach, and that makes your overall length longer. And then anything longer in the water is going to be faster. So you really want to keep that other arm stretched out until this arm is almost out of the water and coming back up, about almost a third of the way back up, and then start your other stroke. And then as soon as you can get your other hand out as far as you can reach, just make sure that other arm is reaching out in front of you. I think that really helps making distance over the water. Some paddling things that I wanted to kind of share, at least that I've noticed about how to improve my paddling out in the water. Okay, let me get into some of these questions. I know that I missed a couple here. Thanks a lot for the questions, guys. I do appreciate it. Hey, Nathaniel, good to see you, man. He's asking about, have you got any feedback on the double crescent or delta tails, and what would be the theories behind that type of tail design? So the double crescent is really, I don't know if people have seen that, you probably go through the Instagram. Instead of just having one big crescent through, we do like two bigger full crescents, and then usually the top side of that's just a full crescent. So the bottom on the board has two crescents, and kind of got a little point in the center. And then the top part's just fully crescent off. It kind of fades from a double to a single on those kind of tails. Well, that board's going to ride a lot like a full crescent, but it's going to have a little bit more bite in the tail. And usually that bottom, it also works with a single to double concave. So what you get is that where that center point is, you also get a rib that works with the channel design on the bottom. So it's really going to track, and it's more of a cohesive design with the channel design and the tail design. So they kind of work together. You're just going to get a little bit more bite, a little bit more hold in a double kind of a double crescent with a single to double concave than you would if you had just a full crescent and maybe a single concave or a flat bottom. Now, delta tails are a whole nother deal. So like a delta bat it's kind of almost like a little double wing kind of situation. I haven't really, I actually, the delta bat has the center bump and then comes out like a double V. A delta bat's I have one in my personal quiver that I rode it a lot. I think it's number 24. It's way early board. I found that I like it on the deck side, but I haven't really ridden it much DK. I could see maybe it being a thing that it's going to be a little bit loose in the tail a little bit, just because I know that's how I just pro rode mine. Mine was a quad delta, so the bottom on it stuck real good, and it really worked really well. But I just felt like when I laid into a big turn, it was a little bit more side slippy than my full like a full 3 to 6 kind of bottom. I just don't think it didn't bite as much, so it had a little more drift in the tail, but you also get maybe a little more float. And maybe for DK, having that extra buoyancy and that little bump in the back might help for, you know, when you sit back on the tail when you're DKing. So I don't know, that might have some things for DK, but you know, I really think that maybe the Crescent tail designs are maybe a little bit better when it comes to DKing, just because they have a little bit more bite in the tail and they're not so loose. But there is no right or wrong. It's just about how you want your board to ride. So if you want it to be loose and you can throw the tail out and it's going to slide and slip around on you, so you can get up and whip tails and stuff. I mean, that's, you know, it just depends on how you want your board to go. Phil, you're asking about meshes, and yeah, let's get into that. So, you know, meshes, it's one of the craziest things is that these meshes that I order the same one every time, but they always seem to come a little bit different. And I don't know whether it's the manufacturer or the distributor I get it from, but they're close to the same, but sometimes the gauges of these things are a little bit different. I have some right here. I buy them, and I buy the stuff in big rolls like this. This roll's almost done, but it comes in quite a bit bigger. It's just a diamond style plastic. It's a PE plastic diamond shape. So and then what happens with these things is, you know, I think it's about I want to say it's about 3/4 inch this way and about 1.25 inches the other way, somewhere around there. So this is the size of the standard mesh I use right now. So yeah, it's like I said, it's 24-inch wide. It comes in big rolls, and I just cut them for however long the board needs to be. This stuff like I said, this stuff gets sandwiched in between the kind of what I showed you before on this one is it gets sandwiched in between the bottom slick stuff, which is the sandwich of the materials I showed before, and then the core. So that's usually where the mesh goes, and I really just do prefer it on the bottom side. And it helps with recoil and chatter dampening. That's another thing it kind of helps with. So they did, and these meshes, they do come in different sizes. And I also do have some carbon fiber stuff. I have carbon fiber stuff, but I really don't think it reacts as well as this stuff does. The carbon fiber stuff I have is the kind of stuff that you see in the rails of surfboards. It's the same kind of diamond pattern, but then it has like little pieces of fiberglass that kind of hold all the carbon fiber strands together. But this is the stuff I pretty much put in all the boards. Sometimes it goes on the deck side if people want it, but like I said, I really think it's better on the bottom side for when you're stretching up on the board, you're expanding all these diamonds. And what it does is it'll stretch the diamonds out, and then it wants to go back, so it's gonna want to pop the board back quicker than if it didn't have it there. And also makes the board a little stronger over the whole bottom part of the board. Just makes it a little bit more durable. You know, does it make, and he's Phil's also asking, does it make it tricky laminating that stuff? No, you know, you just lay it over the top of the core, and then you just feed everything together, and you know, there's enough weight on my roller, on my laminator, that it just pushes and squishes it all down. What it also does is it stretches that through the process too. It also takes the diamonds and stretches them out a little bit. So it adds we talked about this in one of the previous videos where it pre-tensions out the board. You get all this reverse rocker in the board. Well, the mesh adds to that pre-tension. So you get even more pre-tension in the bottom slicks, and you get more reverse rocker. And then when you flip it over and you do the deck side, you pull everything flat. And that just gives your board even more recoil. When you go to flex it up, it's going to pop back even harder. So that's the thinking behind the mesh stuff. Yeah, I can get into, I know there's some, you know, people that use some other types of meshes and some rectangular stuff, but I'll only use the diamond stuff. It really does seem like it's the best stuff. It's the only stuff I've ever used for my boards. Yeah. Hey, J Cran, yeah, some thanks about those paddling tips. Yeah, I really kind of wanted to share that for a while about different paddling stuff that, you know, I find useful when I'm in the water, and hopefully that'll help other people out there be a little bit better and more efficient with their paddling. Don't be afraid to paddle with your arms. It really is a good thing. And you know, I'd say, you know, I paddle with my arms so much. I mean, I'll kick a lot too, especially during my takeoff. Just kind of depends on the wave and the takeoff, whether I'm paddling with my arms or I'm paddling with my legs or I'm paddling with both, whatever I need to do. That's the beauty of bodyboarding. You get to use all 4 of your limbs. You might as well. You know, surfers, they can't kick as much as us, so we got 4 limbs to paddle with, but our boards are quite a bit shorter. Can I talk about the length of boards in regards to fitting your torso length and hips, like a thicker 42 inches versus 43 at the same volume? Yeah, I mean, I've got, there's lots of board charts out there on the internet. If you search for a bodyboard board sizing chart, there's charts out there on the internet that you can find that'll give you like this is how tall versus this. But really, I find that I'm 6'4" and I ride a 42-inch board. If I ride a 43-inch board, I just feel like it's too long for how I like my board to ride. So 42 is fine for me. I mean, I have a board that's a little bit longer than that, but I only get to break those bigger boards out on smaller days. I really find that the 42-inch board and the waves get good is the right size for me. So yeah. Now if you're talking about volume now, if you want to get more volume in a 42, you just go thicker, right? I mean, if you want the volume of a 43 into a 42-inch board, the only way to kind of do that is to kind of go thicker. So that's what I'd suggest, and I've experimented with a few different thicknesses on my 42-inch boards to try to find the right buoyancy for. Usually it's for the water I'm riding. Around here, I don't need as much buoyancy because I'm wearing a real thick wetsuit, and that helps with my buoyancy. But when I go to Hawaii, I like a thicker 42-inch board just because I'm not wearing a 5'4" like I wear at home, and I'm not as buoyant. So having a little bit more float in my board's a good thing when I'm over there. Nick, how do I make sure the rocker is perfect if reverse rockers at first? Okay, well, so I talked a little bit about that in one of the other things, but so what happens is you can even see this board. It's still a little bit reverse. So this has the slick on it, but it also has the stringer in it. This has a long short stringer in this board. So what it is, you'll see like the tail's already not kind of flat, but the whole rest of the board's still reverse rocker. So what happens when I go to laminate the deck on this thing, my laminator has a downdraft table so the table that the board rides on is a suction table. So I can suck the whole board flat. So that I just suck it all completely flat. And then what I do is, because the nose is still so reversed, what I'll do is I'll have different nose shims that go underneath the nose, and it shims the nose up and compensates for like the nose cut that we talked about like last week, is that those shims go up underneath the nose and it helps hold the board flat, and then the skin's laminated across while it's all held perfectly flat. And then also, like I said, that also stretch and reverse it puts tension into the deck in the opposite direction, and then as the board cools, hopefully it comes out flat. It usually does. And sometimes I use even bigger nose shims to get the DK style nose rockers that'll go into DK style boards too. So that's kind of the tricks about how do you get it flat after it comes out so reverse after you put the skin or the slick on. So it's a mad science to get these boards flat. I don't think people realize that either. So trial and error is how I learned how to get these noses flat. And I have a series of shims that are all numbered, and depending on how thick the board is and how much nose cuts on the bottom, it depends on it, or how much nose rocker I want. I showed you last week, one of my personal boards just has a little bit of a nose kick in it. So I'll just throw a tiny little shim up by the nose, and then that just kicks a little bit of the nose up front. So it gives you a little bit of a nose bar up there. Yeah, Panda. I think that people need to paddle with their arms just a little bit more. It's nice to mix it up too, is that you can paddle with your arms for a while, and then once your arms start getting a little tired, you can switch off and kick with your feet. So it's kind of good to switch back and forth instead of just blowing your legs out, and then you don't know how to arm paddle, and then you're just dead in the water. You got to learn some skills with all four of your limbs. It really goes a long way to paddling. It'll make you a way more efficient paddler out there in the water. And I realize there's a lot of guys that just ride shore break, and they hardly even need fins because you're 20 feet and you're in the lineup, and you're riding a wave for 3 to 5 seconds, and you're not really riding the wave that long, so that means you don't have to paddle out that far. So I don't know. It's just it's whatever you're into. There's no right or wrong. It's just I know for me where I live, there's just no shore break kind of waves around here. Everything is beachy breaks or reef breaks where you got to paddle. You got to do some paddling to get to the lineup. It's not Anybody I usually take out to spots around here, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize how far you had to paddle." And then like, "Oh, it's such a workout. You have to do so much paddling." And I'm like, "That's all I know. It's all I've ever done." You know, I mean, and that's nothing. I mean, you go to Hawaii and paddle some outer reefs there, and man, I remember that there's been a couple reefs I've been out to there, and you turn around and look back to shore, and you're like, "Oh my cow, how far am I out to sea right now?" And you look down, the reef's like 4 feet underneath you, and you're so far out to sea. It's pretty cool. Yeah, so it's good to paddle. Good to paddle with your arms a little bit. I'll tell you one other thing about arm paddling is that, man, and we're going to get into some leashes and fin talks today too. But this is number 329, I believe. I've been riding this. This has been my main board for the last year plus right now. It's about ready to get retired. But I'll tell you what, I don't know if you guys can see this, but what usually wrecks almost every single one of my boards is the leash collar. Now these leash collars, I realize that, I use Bully's leashes pretty much on all my boards too. A lot of people ask me, what leashes do you use? And, Bully's made by the Custom X guys down in Oceanside. And, they've been making leashes for a lot of other brands for a lot of years. Bully's is the original brand, and then CX has done some other brands and their own leashes, but they're all basically the same leash. They just have different tags on them. But these tags and the different things are very abrasive. It's crazy. So I don't know. I mean, it's hard to see on this, but I'm gonna try. You can see a little bit the rail damage that I get because I arm paddle so much. That almost is what does every single one of my boards. And you'll look the other side. The other side, maybe the white board's maybe not the best, but you look at the pin line here. It's absolutely perfect. That's because I wear my leash on my right arm. Now you flip it around this side, and now wait till see what white's out. Man, I've already had to take the heat gun to this rail and repair it a couple times because it just frayed the heck out of the rail. It's ridiculous. And it took me a while to figure that out. It was the leashes that what was killing my boards. I was like, man, why are the right side of my boards always just getting torn apart? And it's the leashes. And over time, when things go a little bit better, I sure would like to develop my own leash. I know there's a lot, every brand seems to kind of have their own leash, but there's not, once again, it's not too many people out there making these leashes. And to try to find somebody that will do it for you is not an easy thing. And do I want to spend my time sitting here sewing pieces together and melting cord and the thing? And, I don't know. I mean, I'd rather find somebody who can build something maybe kind of my specs, but I'll tell you what, the cuff design for me is a huge one. It's got to be something that would be, it's kind of interesting how they make all the leashes really comfortable for your arm, which is on the inside. They put all everything's nice and soft, and you got all this nice neoprene on the inside of the leash, but then the outside's full of all these abrasive logos. And you'll see some leash brands have like a really heavy plastic loop on them. I had one of those one time. It wrecked my rail in like 4 sessions. It was like a cheese grater down my right rail. I took scissors and just cut the quick release plastic piece off because I just couldn't believe how it wrecked my rail so fast. But I sure would like to develop a leash that was just as soft on the outside for your board as it's soft on the inside for your arm. It's just like, it's comfortable for the rider, but it's just hell on your board. So it would be a huge thing for me to figure out somebody that could build a leash or help me design a leash that was nice on the outside so it wouldn't damage the board so much. It's really frustrating. You got a $300 plus board, but a $20 leash or a $25 leash is just wrecking your $300 board. I love Bully's leashes, don't get me wrong. I still think they're the best leashes out there. I mean, I've tried a few different. I haven't tried them all, and I know there's some other that are on my radar. But for me, what I really like about the Bully's leashes, especially this one, is the little, what they call a rail saver piece. But if you do any traveling, man, these things really make it easy for you to swap, because you just tie a little loop off the plug, and then these things are just Velcro quick release. And you can see how, it takes me like 2 seconds to get this leash off this board. So if you're packing like a bunch of boards into your bag or something, and you need to take your leash off, it was that quick. And then you just have this. So then you can stack up a bunch of boards and you don't have the leash in the way. And then I usually just when I'm traveling, I just take my leashes and I shove them inside my fins. So I just shove my leash inside my fins. And what's cool is you can just take one leash and you can have 3 or 4 boards. You really only need one leash because you can just swap it in and out of your board so quickly. So yeah, check out the Bullies leashes, man. I really like them. You know, I know there's a CX, and you know the Tubes ones are all the same. I rode the Tubes leashes forever, so that's kind of what drew me to the Bullies when I didn't really want to stray too far away from what I knew when it came to leashes. So it's kind of what I like. I know there's some other people that, you know, people sometimes talk about the Bullies leashes, that the cords are, you know, because you have this, it makes too much leash here and it gets too floppy on the deck of your board. But once you get used to it, it's no big deal. But, you know, like I said, well, if I can develop my own leash, that, you know, might be something I do is shorten up the coil just a little bit. Why do I need this many wraps on a coil? Like if you have this on, if you have the rail saver piece on, you might be able to just shorten up this, maybe save some cord material because you have this, and then you don't get as much leash dangling off in between you while you're paddling and whatnot. So some of the ideas I have, I mean, I definitely would put one of these on my leashes, and I'd make the cuff and stainless steel swivels, man. You know, the Bullies uses brass swivels, and over time I noticed they kind of corrode out a little bit and they don't swivel as good. But man, the stainless steel swivels, if you can get them on a leash, they're really nice. You know, they I think they last a little longer. They don't bind up as much and corrode out like the brass ones do. So yeah, like I said, if anybody's got any questions, fire away, man. I know I just get here and rambling about some certain topics, but you know, people ask me a lot, like, what kind of leashes do you use? What kind of fins do you use? Another one that I get a lot. Hey, what kind of fins do you use? And you know, you guys have probably seen some pictures online and stuff that I post. But I mean, I've been riding these MS Vipers, the orange dot ones, which are the softer rubber ones. There's a couple different compounds, but man, these are the ones I love, and I absolutely love the hub boards fin savers. Even though you can kind of see they kind of go out after about a year, you got to replace them. But man, these hub board leash savers are lifesavers. They're so much better than like the shoelaces and stuff, because how this little piece, because it has a quick release little buckle too, so you can just wrap this over your ankle and it just locks your foot into the back of the fin, and there's just no way your fin's even coming off your foot. Like if you have a shoestring or whatever, it goes around your ankle, you can still get your fin blown off your foot, but then your fin's off your foot. I mean, like if you just have this kind of a leash system, it really does hold your foot, a fin on your foot. So like I said, I've been riding these forever and a day, just because as soon as, I mean, I rode, you know, I've had plenty of blunt cuts over the years because I rode tube stuff for years, obviously. I mean, these are still some of my favorite blunt cuts. They're the original, like, OG rubber. They're super soft rubber and they're solid yellows. These I just break these out for sometimes when I go on trips and stuff. I have those, and then I rode these Rasta ones forever, man. I rode these things for years and years and years. So, but they're kind of heavy, you know. I think the Vipers are a little bit lighter and they're a little bit soft, especially the foot pocket, because the Vipers are two different compounds. I don't know if you know that. The foot pocket's so nice and soft, and the blade can get stiff. You get the yellow dot ones; they're a little bit stiffer out in the fin, the end of the fin, but the foot pockets on these things are amazing. They're really comfy, you know. And I also have some Deltas too, like this, so the MS Deltas. So these are, you know, sometimes I'll break these out if I want to get a little different feel for my fins, but I really do like a more balanced design versus the asymmetrical fins like this. I think these things, when you kick, they put a twist in your legs and stuff, and some people like it. You know, I think if you don't have to paddle far either. For me, if I'm paddling distance, I like the regular MS Vipers versus the Deltas. I think they're stronger over distance than these. But yeah, I have a few that I mix up, and like I ride the MS Vipers the most. But I'll tell you another fin I really like are these Tech 2s. These are still asymmetrical fins, but man, they're all made out of silicone. They're so nice and soft. They're really good fins. I usually ride these with my Tombstone because I DK a little bit more on my Tombstone, and I find that these things are they have a little bit shorter blades. They're a little easier to get your foot up and around when you're DKing. So I don't know. I love these fins too. So I'm either using these or my MS Vipers most days. So what kind of fins does everybody else use? I'm kind of curious. You know, I ramble about what I use, but hey, fire away what kind of fins you guys use. I'm always curious to hear like what leashes and fins everybody else uses. So yeah, Nick. Yep. The blunts, I know people love blunt cuts, and like I said, I've rode them for years, but you know, I kind of turned the page and try some different things after I left tubes, and I really kind of fell in love with the MS Viper stuff. But I still have a warm place in my heart for blunt cuts. Like I said, I wore them for years. I learned how to bodyboard on it with blunt cuts. Those are the only other fins I use besides the MS Vipers. Yeah, Phil, I know. I've actually tried on a pair of yuccas. My ex-girlfriend had a pair of those, and boy, I mean, you know, for me, I didn't really like them because they're a little bit heavier, and that upper wing that comes off the face of the fin, you know, yuccas tend to have like a higher ridge on the upper part of the fin through here. And I just noticed when my feet are at the back of the board, they just dug in. If I'm hauling ass down the line, I just like a little bit more freedom in my fins and a little less bite when I'm riding on the wave and my feet are playing behind. But hey, like I said, there's no right or wrong. It's all about what you like. Yeah, Bray, the yellow dots. Yeah, you know, if they destroyed your heel, you might want to look into some of these. You know, these things really help pad the heel out. I mean, I wear booties all the time at home because the water's so darn cold. And then when I go to Hawaii, I usually still even wear a fin sock underneath these because these things are sized up so I can put my booty inside of them. So if I'm just barefooting inside these, I almost might want a fin size smaller, just because I get the XLs because I wear a size 12 shoe, but you know, and I wear a booty, and so it's kind of finding the right fin that fits your foot with or without a booty is ultimately what's almost most important. All fins are going to give you propulsion. It's just about what fits and feels best on your feet, really. So yeah, there's no right or wrong with fins. I'm just kind of curious about what other people ride. I mean, there's a lot of really cool stuff out there. You know, I know. The hub fins look pretty interesting. They look a lot like blunt cuts, and you know they got some cool colors and stuff too. That's the beauty about once I left Tubes is I got to experience. You know, I was pretty brand loyal when I was riding with them. I never really rode any other accessories. So when I left, I was like, man, I want to try some other things and see what else is out there. And that's the beauty of where I'm at now is that you know I make boards, but I still require other accessories. So for me, it's kind of gets back to that samurai or philosophy is that you find the best weapon you can and that's what you learn and use. You're going to find, and so it's good to experiment with different things and find the best thing that works for you. And don't get hung up that I have to be loyal to this brand because I love that brand. It might not have the best thing for you, you know, so you might find putting hub savers on Viper fins and riding around on board and a bully's leash. That's where I'm at. That's the stuff I use, and I rely on a lot of different brands to make my riding experience the best it can be. So it's good to experiment with different equipment and find what works for you. Yeah. So, yep. That helps people with a little bit of a leash and fin stuff. You know, I know there was some talk last week about different cores and some R-cell stuff I was talking about. And I told you guys I had an R-cell board that I made for myself. And so, you know, I wanted to break this board out and show it to everybody. This is my R-cell board. And like I said, you can go back and look at the original picture of this board. It was pretty meh when I first built it. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of, you might be able to pick up some of the denting and stuff that's going on in the deck of this board, but it's absolutely wrecked after about 2 to 3 months of riding. It's unbelievably dented and creased and all kinds of stuff. It really makes me sad because it's still really light, you know. But man, I'll tell you what, not to mention it, you know, I buckled. I didn't full buckle it, but it definitely has some creasing right through the elbow sections, and it rockered out through here. I just think it lost its. And man, it just doesn't have the same pop and life as it did when it was brand new, man. And the amount of elbow denting and stuff that happened on this thing is just incredible. So it's a different strokes for different folks. But for me, I don't think I'll be making too many more of these cores just because of types of boards, because of maybe the customer service issues I'm going to have with them. That's why I only built one and tested it myself. I didn't want to buy a bunch of these cores, make a bunch of boards for people. And one of the few boards I actually threw a ton of stickers on too. So. I just didn't want to end up with a bunch of boards that I had customer service issues with, and so it's better that I test that stuff. What's M core? Let's see. M core is. Yeah, that's the problem with the the R cell, or it's a modern R cell. So the modern R cell is a blend of PE and polystyrene, which is styrofoam. So it's a PE and styrofoam blended together. That's what kind of like the modern R cell is, and it just doesn't have memory. You can squish it, you know, and it just doesn't pop back like a polypropylene or standard polyethylene core would do. It really just doesn't have the memory. It's light, and it's stiff, but man, it's got its problems with holding up over time. And a lot of people try to, people say, oh, we'll just put deck mesh on it, you know, that'll help with the denting. But you know, it's like a Band-Aid. You know, why you're putting a Band-Aid on the problem instead of addressing the problem. So I'd rather just address the problem and not do it in the first place, instead of trying to put a Band-Aid on it and try to hide the denting that's happening. That's going to happen regardless. You know, the denting might just, or the deck mesh might just slow it down a little bit, but you're still going to have problems with it over time. Yeah, Defin is another good brand. Bray, I know some people ride some Defins out there. So Phil's asking me, when are we going to see Team Ronin? You know, yeah, I would love to be able to really put some sponsorship stuff together, but I'm not really in a place where I can do that. Like I said, for me, it's about reinvesting in materials right now and trying to just stay alive. You know, people want free stuff and things and deals and things like that when you get into team agreements and stuff. And, you know, I'm not at a point where I can give stuff away for free, because I just can't survive and keep doing what I do. I want to still be able to make cool, unique boards for cool custom stuff for people. That's always been my goal. And I'm going to have people that are, you know, I get hit up with people at least once to 5 times a month asking me if I'll sponsor them. And I just can't do that right now. You know, I would love to, and I'm going to help, you know, the people that are loyal to my brand and have bought multiple boards. I'm always going to try to help them out. If they're in a position where they need a board, I'm always going to do my best to give them a deal. And especially if you're a repeat customer, that's for me. If you bought a board, I'm going to be way more willing to work with you on a second board or a third board or a fourth board than if I've never heard from you before and you just ask me for something for free out of the blue. I just don't take kindly to that too often. It's just, you know, I realize people are in desperate situations and they need a board, but I can't give stuff away for free right now. I think there's plenty of people that are on Team Ronin already. You know, I don't think I need to give stuff away for free to people to, you know, build a cool group of guys who want to ride my board. So that's kind of my thinking on sponsorship, at least right now. You know, down the road, if something work changes and, you know, I'm in a place where I can really give a true sponsorship to somebody to help them get to contests and give them boards and, you know, merch and all this stuff. I'd love to get to that point, but I'm just not there right now. Yeah, board repair, Brea. You know, obviously, you know, heat gun. I use the heat guns I use. You can get at Home Depot. I use the Wagner heat gun. You can get it at Home Depot. Anybody can go down there and buy that heat gun. I mean, people have to think, oh, you need this, you know, $500 heat gun or blah 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 blah. You know, I use Wagner heat guns. I've used the same gun. I mean, I've had to repair and replace a few of these, but Wagner's really cool. I've sent them back and they sent me a brand new one before. But you can go down. This one's cool too because it does, you know, temperature range. It's all digital controls, fan controls, multiple speeds, multiple heats, and I've had, you know, $500 heat guns that work the exact same as this $80 heat gun. So you can just go down to Home Depot, and this is the separate Makita. It's a Makita little nozzle on here. The ones that come with it are a little bit wider, and I like a little bit narrower thing, just so it gives it a little bit more intensity when it's blowing. But this is the gun I use to make all my boards as far as the heat gun work goes. The only one I use. I've had a few different ones, but I really just think that's the best one for the money. And so, I mean, I use that, and sure, you can use it to do repairs and you know, and obviously doing a little rolling and stuff. It's nice to have a little roller too, but all my rollers are handmade. You know, there's a video on YouTube that shows the rolling process and how to do that. But so usually when you're healing the edges of what the cut edges are, you use one of these rollers and the heat gun. So you're heating stuff and then you're rolling behind it and then sealing all those cut edges. And you can do some repairs with these kind of rollers. You know, it depends on what type of repair you're doing. You know, a hot glue gun also is super helpful for small D-lams and little, you know, if you get a chunk out of your board, you can just throw some hot glue in it and stuff too. That just be careful with the heat, because heat will sometimes if you put too much heat on skins or core, it can do more damage than what you're trying to repair. You got to be really careful with the heat. But yeah, heat guns and hot glue guns are kind of what I'd suggest to do some minor repairs on boards. It kind of depends on what you're doing. Anybody else got any questions? Dang, we're already at 6:50. This hour has flown by. Yeah. Hot glue guns are, sessions. Yeah, hot glue guns definitely work. Yeah. You know, there's some people talk about irons and wax paper and stuff like that too. It just depends on, like I said, depends on what kind of repair you're trying to do to the board. So there's some few different ways to repair, depending on what you need to repair. So yeah. You know, another thing, I got about 10 minutes left or so hit me up with questions. But other than that, maybe I wanted to talk a little bit about, you know, where my influence for shaping comes from. You know, obviously I was lucky enough to get custom boards made at Tubes for, you know, 15 years probably before I started shaping there. So first and foremost, you know, I'm influenced by what was going on at the Tubes factory. You know, being exposed to how that place ran and the process it took to build a board. It was so influential, you know. And first and foremost, I'd have to say Buzz, because the guy's an absolute genius, and he's damn near taught me everything I know when it comes to machinery and tooling and quality and passion and everything else. Man, the guy's a true influence on how I approach every board. I wouldn't be able to do what I do without his knowledge and what he shared with me over the years, and I'm very grateful. So yeah, obviously Buzz, you know, pretty influential. Also, you know, once I got into shaping boards, I saw, well, gosh, who else is shaping boards out there, you know? And it wasn't too long before I discovered Pete. Pete at Custom X is an absolute legend in the shaping world, and the things he does with PMA with his true custom boards. And I realize he's most of the time he's just cranking on production boards for Custom X, but his PMA brand of boards has obviously had some influence on me, man. The things that he does and his knowledge and history and his craftsmanship is second to none, really, out there as far as building boards. His stamped tail pieces are why I stamp my tail pieces. I early on I saw him doing the Misfits logo one that he has, or something. It's like a Scully face that he put across the tail pieces of some of his boards, and I was like, oh, that is super cool. And there was another guy that came, one of the Tubes team rider came in and showed me we stamped like a small little Tubes wave down the rails of a couple of his boards, and I was like, oh, that's really cool too. And then you can obviously see those two influences had how I do some of my rails and tails with all the little R's these days and all the multicolors of stuff. That's kind of where all those ideas came from. So yeah, I mean, Pete does some amazing stuff. And then, you know, obviously Jimmy's also JL. He's done those two guys for me, because they're California shapers that have been around in the shaping world forever. I watch both of I suck in as much as I can from both of those guys on whatever they post on social media. I love watching all that stuff, because it's all knowledge I can learn from other people that have been doing it way longer than I have. I didn't get into bodyboarding at all until the early 2000s, so I missed all the heyday of bodyboarding, and because I didn't become a shaper until, you know, the early teens. So I was like 12, 13, 14, 15, somewhere around there is when I started getting into the tube shop. So, you know, I've only really been doing this for shaping boards for maybe about 10 years. So, I mean, and I've been riding for over 20. So, you know, that's as far as that goes. There are a lot of people out there that have been riding boards a lot longer than I have, and shaping boards for definitely a lot longer than I have. So, you know, and then, you know, once I got into doing the custom stuff at Tubes, I was just taking over the custom stuff. You You know, I was watching a lot with you know, what Luke Redman or Redders, who had basic boards. He still does. He's out of Australia. If, I'm a real big fan of what Redders was doing, and then I tried to shape my business off of really similar to what he was doing. The guy had a lot of influence on what I do, and the direction when I left to was like, okay, what kind of bodyboard business do I want to do? And I looked at what the guy, you know, basic boards, or Luke was doing down there, and I was just like, man, I was a huge fan of everything that he was doing, and the way his social media presence and all that stuff, it was just huge for me. I was like, man, that's the formula. That's the kind of what I want to do. You know, I want to have a social media presence where you see a lot of the shapers, they're just not into posting stuff and or doing something like what I'm doing right now. They're just not going to put the time into exposing themselves, or they're rather just put their time into shaping boards and not sharing any knowledge. And it's okay. There's nothing right or wrong. But you know, I love you know, there's some other shapers. I mean, really anybody out there that's still truly shaping boards, I consider an influence. You know, like, you know, Gato over in Portugal, he's doing some really cool stuff with that new stringer system he's got. It's really that Hexa or something like that. It's a pretty interesting design with a stringer. It's like a whole inlaid type of thing that goes into the core. I'm really curious on how that would go. I see what, you know, so anybody that's pushing the boundaries is going to be an influence on me, because I like to think that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm trying to push the boundaries of what board, you know, how you can shape a board and the different features you can put into it. So anybody that's trying to push the envelope out there is going to be an influence on me. Obviously, Mez also, you know, NMD is huge influence on me too. He's the one that showed me the very first quad channel board that I ever seen in my life. I was like, what the heck is this? It was like, and that changed my world. So, you know, the first quad I saw, I was just like, it was one of the very first Ben player quads. And so he came over and hung out with Tubes when I took over as the shaper there, and showed me a lot of some of the different types of material sandwiches he was using in his boards, and that's still how I use those same techniques and same materials that he showed me. That the Tubes factory wasn't even using those types of substrates and things that I use now. It really changed the board building and improved. It made it easier to build. So like all those things have had me a super big influence on me. And then the more I've gotten into some history of boards, you know, I'm really sad I missed out on some of the stuff Manta was doing back in the day. Because I don't know if anybody knows the Manta brand, but they had some really interesting, cool, unique shapes. I think they were way ahead of their time with tail design and some of the things and shapes and things they were doing with their boards. I really think that Manta, I'm really sad that they're not what they used to be, because I just love what some of the designs that they had in their boards. It really, really, really cool stuff. Yeah, that's the thing is, yeah, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it sessions, right? I mean, like when it comes to rail design and dimensions, the things are kind of set that, you know, but then there's been modern tweaks and designs, like, you know, but then it's also like the tombstone that I build. There's nothing really out there that's quite like that or ever really been built like that, but except for but it was influenced by the Pipo boards. So if you look at that shape, that's where I pulled it from. Looked at some of the old school wood Pipos, the little belly boards that have that kind of shape, as V-tail and real straight railed on the side and just a rounded type of nose. So that's kind of the influence that I had when I just came up with the tombstone shape. So, but yeah, as far, I mean, the Mach 77 is the boogie board shape. If you ask anybody to draw you a boogie board, they're going to draw you a Mach 77 with the clip crescent tail, because that's a boogie board to most people. It's like, yeah, somebody to draw a house, and they're going to draw a gabled roof with a little door in the front, and that's what a house should look like. It's the same thing with a boogie board. They're going to draw a Mach 77. That's what everybody thinks. But then, obviously, there's been some cool things out there that you know, you can adjust everything. That's what's cool about doing customs versus just buying something off the shelf, is that you can tweak and you can start with the board, but then you're like, oh geez, what would happen if I like this one, but what happened if I pulled the nose in more and maybe shifted the wide point down? You have all that flexibility when you're ordering a custom board versus just buying something off the shelf, and you can really play and tweak with dimensions. Maybe not on one board, but you can, the more boards you order and the bigger your quiver gets, the more you can experiment with different shapes and designs and tails and channels, and there's a lot of things that I put into my boards that you just can't get really in any other board. And it's just a combination of cool features that you just can't find in some of the other boards, which that's what's cool about custom, is you can make it yours and make it super unique. And those are the kind of boards I want to build. Yeah. So, you know, obviously, Mez builds a lot of boards for other people too, I can't discredit science and what Mike Stewart's done as well. I think that, even though Mez makes all those boards for Mike, is that some of the stuff that he's come up with over the years has been truly really inspirational for me too, with deck contours and some. He had some of the first traction bumps I'd really ever even seen on a board too, even though they were a little bit bigger than the ones that I do. They were like bigger inlays that were put in the board, and then I forget when, maybe it was one of the pockets a few years back had some kind of traction bumps on it. But I thought that was a pretty cool idea, and why not try to incorporate that with some of the stuff I'm doing these days. So that's where comes kind of some of my traction bump idea came from, was from seeing those early science ones that had kind of some bumps on the deck. And I've seen Jimmy do some stuff too. He between Jimmy and science, that's where all kind of the traction bump thing came from. Jimmy did some boards definitely with some bumps on it for DK. Mostly DK, I think he had seen some boards that he'd done with little traction bumps for your feet, where you put your feet at. Yeah, thanks, Sessions. If I inspire one person, I think that I've done my job. And if I can share some knowledge and inspire somebody to get creative and give it a go, I mean, I realize a lot of people want to shape, but I don't think people realize what it takes to really put a whole shop together and source all the materials and all the hurdles you got to get to just to make one board. It's unbelievable, and people don't realize how much work it takes just to build that very first board. It's a lot of work to get to that point. I don't want to discourage anybody, but it's a battle, and it constantly is. Sometimes it just takes months to get some of the materials because they come from overseas, and you really have to long-term plan for some stuff. And just having the ability to build boards I feel very blessed that people even want to sell me materials, because I'm just such a small fish in this really big pond. There's a lot of guys out there that need a lot more materials than what I do, because I'm just one person and I just build custom boards, where that's not most brands model or most manufacturers model, is they want to build 100 of this and a model and 100 of that model, and then we'll go market it and sell those boards. That's not the way I want to run my business. So I'm just very fortunate that people want to sell me materials, because I'm a one guy operation, and I don't buy mass quantities like some of the other big manufacturers do. I'm at 440 something boards now, and I think Mez told me when he was visiting me that his factory can do 500 boards in a day. So, and I'm all in a day, and it's taken me 5 years to build 440 boards. So, there you go. The fact that I just don't do the volume of what the big factories can do, just because I'm a one guy operation. So, just feel very fortunate that I can build boards, and I had the opportunity, and there's people that are willing to sell me materials. So, very very lucky. Like I said, if I can inspire one person to work on their board or want to give it a go, I know. Well, my buddy Andrew back east, he and I tag team some stuff when it comes to materials. We kind of order some stuff together, because he's back east, and it's even further for him to get stuff from overseas. So it's kind of better if we go together, and it gives us a bigger color range of stuff. Then we can buy kind of materials together, and it's worked out pretty well for us. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty excited about the new blue colors. If everybody hasn't seen those, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. I'm really looking forward to seeing what people come up with. Yeah, anybody got any other questions? Fire away. We're kind of getting into the witching hour. It's a little after 7 now, so anybody's got any questions, hit me up. Well, I guess if nobody's got any other things, maybe I'll get to signing off. I really want to thank everybody for showing up and firing away questions. Yeah, I'm really enjoying doing these things, like I've said every time. And if I can keep on doing these things and spreading some knowledge, that's kind of what I want to do. And like I said, I'm still having fun doing it, and I'm not going to stop. So, I want to thank everybody for showing up and listening to me ramble on. And get your questions together, and then if anybody has any topics they want me to kind of discuss in future ones, send me messages or comment on these videos below, and I'll make sure I get some topics in to talk about. So, I mean, it's always nice to kind of have a few things that I want to come in with, and then a few things that kind of people can talk to me about or ask questions about. Hey, Monk, um, he's asking about some asymmetrical boards. Um, you know, well, obviously I've done some asymmetrical stuff, and it's all stance specific kind of DK. I've never done one that's 50-50 on one side and 60-40 on the other, but I definitely could. Yeah, it's an interesting concept if you to throw a different rail ratio on one side versus the other. I never really thought about that. There might be some benefit to that, but yeah, it's possible for sure. I'd definitely be willing to give it a go on an asymmetrical board. Yeah, I think asymmetrical designs for DK, there's something to them. You know, I think people get turned off sometimes it's a little bit outside the the typical bodyboard shape, and it's like they can't wrap their head around this. You know, you never ride both rails at the same time, and your weight distribution depending on your stance for DK is different. So why do the rails have to be the same? You're riding the board differently depending on what side of the board you're riding on because your stance is different. So there is definitely some benefits to a DK asymmetrical board. And I think the more I think some DK riders need to open their minds and maybe start giving these asymmetrical designs a go. But hey, I'll build whatever they want. If they want a symmetrical board, I'll build a symmetrical board. That's fine too. I don't mind. I ultimately just want to build what my customers want. So anyhow, I guess that's about it, unless people got any other questions last minute here. Oh, I'm glad you like the red board, Nick. Well, it sounds like we're your name is in the next set of boards. You and Sterling are both getting some new rides, so that's pretty cool. I'm pretty stoked to be building you guys both another set of boards. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Appreciate the support, man. I'm stoked you like the board that I built you, and it's working for you. Saw you get that one DK barrel on the surf line feed. That was pretty cool. It looks like you and Sterling split that peak, and you got like a pretty good DK barrel. That would look pretty fun. Someday I'm gonna have to get down there and ride that wave with you guys. It looks like something that it's like Barrel City on that wave. So sure would like to get down there and check out your guys' zone. You know, I do have to be down in San Diego at the end of October, so I'm just passing through because I'm going on a cruise with my dad. We're doing a little blues cruise thing, but I will be down in the San Diego area. But I don't know if I'm going to take my stuff because I got to park my truck at a hotel for a few days, and I just don't know if I want to leave my stuff in a truck for a few days. So, and I'm kind of in and out. You know, I don't really like hanging out in LA and San Diego that much, just because it's not my cup of tea down there. It's just too busy. I love my sleepy little life in Morro Bay. But yeah, I definitely want to get down there and hang out with the guys. You know, it seems like there's so many waves that I'm missing out down there, and the water's warmer too. So I'd love to get down there and hang out with you guys sometime. And appreciate everybody showing up and the questions. So I think I'm probably going to sign off. And said thanks for everybody showing up, and I appreciate the support. And guess I'll just see you guys all next week. Appreciate it. Guess that's it for this week. Ciao for now.